Good morning, class. It's lovely to be here. Today we are going to be looking at Animal Farm, the same book that you would have touched on previously. So, before we go on to what I actually want to teach you, there's an activity that we're all going to go through. We all know about this. It's simple hide and seek. So, what is going to happen? Everyone is going to be blindfolded, and I'm going to allow two persons to hide right here in this classroom, and everyone else is going to be looking whilst I'm going to ask two other persons to find the two persons that are hiding, and no one is to actually give any clues. So the persons who are hiding are going to see everything from their perspective. The persons who are actually seeking, they're going to see it from their perspective, and the audience is going to see it from another perspective. And when we're finished with this activity, you'll see why we have to go through this activity. So this should not take anything more than, let's say, 2-3 minutes for our first activity. So students, let's get prepared for a game of hide and seek. Okay, Jashan, so since you were hiding, you are one of the persons that were hiding. What was your perspective when the persons were trying to catch you? What were you seeing? Okay. They're looking in the wrong places. Yeah, you were seeing them, they couldn't see you. Okay. So, Sean, you were actually looking. When you were looking and you actually realized where Janet was when you were looking for her, what actually was going through your mind? Okay, yeah. She thought she was far away, but she was actually closer than you thought she was. Okay. And anyone in the audience, anybody in the audience, would you like to say how you felt or what was happening when you were actually seeing these persons hiding and these persons seeking? Okay, let me hear you, Chantel. Okay, Chantel. So you're saying it was intriguing because you saw him looking for her, although she was right there. He did not know she was right there because she was hidden very nicely. Okay. So basically some persons in the audience saw it from one perspective, the others who were hiding saw it from another perspective, and those who were seeking saw it from another perspective. Okay, so what's gonna happen? We're gonna go right into a short video. This video is only gonna last for 3 minutes, and it's very interesting. So class, take a look at this video.
His flight was delayed, and so he had a little spare time. He saw a deal on some cookies and thought he should treat himself. He bought quite a few cookies because he thought it might be quite a long delay. He took a seat near a man and started to read the magazine he also picked up earlier. He exchanged a glance with the other man and then tried to avoid eye contact as he went back to reading. While he was engrossed in his magazine, he happened to see that the man sitting beside him boldly grabbed a cookie from the container. He initially ignored the incident to avoid a scene. He grabbed a cookie himself and went back to his magazine. But the man seemed to have enjoyed the cookie so much, he took another one and started eating it too. This continued for a while, and with each passing moment, he began to get more and more irritated. Every time he took a cookie, so did the other man. When the last cookie was left, the man nervously took that cookie and broke it in half. He offered the other to the man and smiled. The man took the cookie and could not believe the other man's nerve. He was thinking in his head, how ungrateful could that man be? The other man then left and took the container with him. This guy couldn't believe what had just happened. He was relieved when his flight was called. He gathered his belongings. As he lifted his bag, he saw that there was a full container of cookies right there. He was totally shocked, totally surprised. It caught him off guard. He thought to himself, if my cookies are here, then wait, those cookies were his. The other man had shared his cookies whilst he was thinking he was the one doing the sharing. Whilst he was angry and irritated, the other man was being generous and kind. He felt so bad for what had happened, but he couldn't find the other man anywhere and didn't know how to apologize. Things are not always as they appear. Sometimes we make quick assumptions about people, circumstances, and situations. We judge them, label them, and put them into a box, not recognizing that there is a much bigger picture. Sometimes we meet someone in a particular state, stage, or phase of their life and stereotype them to be a certain way. Don't be so quick to judge. You never know when you might find yourself walking in someone else's shoes. And remember, the best apology is changed behavior.
Okay, students, great. So you just had an activity whereby 3 different sets of persons saw the same thing from a different perspective or a different point of view, whichever one you may want to call it. And we just saw a video whereby there was these cookies. One man was seeing his action in one way, whilst another man who was sitting at the same table but opposite him was looking at the actions and the cookies in another way. So when you look at something one way, there's your, exactly, you guessed it, your point of view. Another word for point of view is exactly perspective. So different persons could look at the same thing and have a different point of view. Hence, a different point of view could cast a different judgment. Okay, so there you guessed it. So our topic today on the Animal Farm is going to be point of view. So point of view in literature. I gave you what I think is point of view. So anyone else would like to say what they think point of view is? Okay, let me hear you, Sean. Okay, point of view is how you see something. Okay. Anyone else? Nicholas? Okay, point of view is your thoughts on something. Okay, interesting. Anyone else? Joy? Okay, let me hear you, Joy. Okay, so Joy is saying that point of view is the way you feel about something. You all have interesting answers. So, the question, what is point of view? Point of view, simply put, is the audience's perspective on the events of the narrative. Once again, point of view is the audience's perspective on the events of the narrative. What are the types of point of view? So, there are basically 3 types of point of view. There is the first person, second person, and the third person. I'm going to start off, however, with the third person. So the third person point of view basically speaks of the audience actually looking on to the play. So imagine you're part of the audience and the narrator is actually speaking to you. So if the narrator is speaking to you, he or she would be using certain pronouns to refer to the protagonist, like he or she or they. So when you hear he, she, or they, you already know that you are in the audience looking on to what's actually happening. The second person is rarely used. It's rarely used, and because it's rarely used, we're not going to touch too much of that on the second person in this class. Third person point of view. I'm going to break this down as simple as I could, and as was previously stated, it's whereby you are the audience on looking onto an event. So sometimes your perspective or your point of view may be limited or all-knowing or omniscient. Omniscient, for instance, is like God. God knows us all, God sees us all. So there's nothing we could hide from God. So God knows it all. So remember this word, omniscient. It means all-knowing. Limited based on the amount of characters. Maybe you could know everything about one character or two characters or three characters, so it's limited. It's not omniscient. And it could be a close third person or a distant third person. Close meaning that you know a lot about the character. Distant meaning you know limited amount about the character. Second person, we would not touch a lot on second person for the sake that it is hardly ever used, but I'm just gonna still give you the definition of it. So the second person is whereby the audience is the hero of the story. So imagine we, the audience, we are the heroes of the story. It is hardly ever used. So for the sake of this class, we will not be touching anymore on second person. So we're going to go straight into first person. And it says here, the first person of a story is the hero. A story told by the hero to the audience. The audience is listening. So some of the adjectives, some of the pronouns that you're going to be using to replace the nouns of these persons would be like I. If I am going to say, I went to school yesterday and I saw you, that means I'm speaking in the first person. If I would have said, they went to school yesterday and they saw her, then I would be speaking in the third person. So just remember these points. The general giveaway or idea of how to know if it's first or third person is based on the simple pronouns being used. And as I said previously, we're only going to be dealing with the first and third person aspects for the sake of this class. Okay class, so we revisited Animal Farm briefly just now, and you have a whole long list of pronouns to help you identify the point of view the literature or the poem or the play or the drama is being narrated at. So since the class is now already divided, before we go on to our next activity, I want to ask you a simple question. How do we know what point of view Animal Farm was narrated in? Anyone? Let me hear you, John. Okay, John. Yes, it was in third person. And how could you definitely say it was in third person? Exactly, because of the pronouns used. Now, the pronouns that were used in Animal Farm, when they were describing the pigs, they would refer to them as they. When they talk about Napoleon, they would say he. So the pigs were they, Napoleon was he. Sometimes instead of saying the names of the characters, they would refer to them as he. Get it? Exactly. So that is how we know, in all, without any ambiguity, in all clarity, that Animal Farm definitely was narrated in the third person point of view. So since we're finished with that, we already know the point of view that Animal Farm was narrated in. We're going to go on now to our next activity. Okay class, so we're almost finished. We're at the end, or I should say the concluding part of our class. So we just had an activity. What you had to do is to use your imagination and rewrite certain passages or certain aspects of Animal Farm from a different point of view. So we're all clear on point of view. Is that so? Okay class, anyone does not understand until now, yet still, what point of view is? Okay, great. So we all understand what point of view is. So what we're gonna do in concluding, we're going to play a quick game of Jeopardy. So what's going to happen, you're going to stay in your groups, but I'm going to further amalgamate you into 3 large groups. And what's going to happen, with each group, you're going to contest against the other 2 groups. You're going to have a simple game of Jeopardy. So basically, I'm going to ask a few questions, and which group actually tries to answer first is going to be given the opportunity to answer first. If he or she from that group gets the answer wrong, then someone else from the other group is going to get an opportunity to answer the same question. So which group actually ends up with the most points win the game of Jeopardy. So we have a few basic questions. So question number 1, what is point of view? Team 1. Point of view is the way the narrative is written in the... Okay, yes, we're going to accept that. Yes, so that's correct. Point of view is actually the audience's interpretation or perspective of the events that is happening of the narrative. Okay, question number 2. How many aspects of point of view are they? Team 3. 2? No, that's incorrect. The correct... Okay, what? Yes, the correct answer is actually 3. So team 2 got the answer correct. So the answer is 3. There are 3 aspects of point of view. The third question. What is meant by the term omniscient? Anyone? Let me hear you, team 2 again. Omniscient is when you can not only see one person, but you could see 2 persons. No, that's incorrect. Omniscient. Omniscient is when you cannot see anyone. No, that's incorrect. Omniscient. Omniscient is when you could see everyone. Correct. So omniscient is whereby you can see everyone. The next question. How can I identify if the poem is written in the first person? Team 3. You had your hand up first? Okay. Yes, by certain pronouns. For exactly. So your answer is correct. Those pronouns, like I, would be first person, and those pronouns like they would be third person. That is absolutely correct. So you actually answered the other question that I was about to ask you. So I'm going to go to our next question. Who is the author of Animal Farm? Exactly, George Orwell. Good. So there you have it in the game of Jeopardy. So at the end of it, team 1 won because they answered most questions. So we actually went through what is point of view. We actually went through the types of point of view. We identified certain pronouns that are being used to identify the different types of point of view. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just leave you with homework, and we're going to cap off the lesson with that. So what your homework is, you're going to compose a paragraph of approximately 200 words in the narrative of a point of view that you choose, and then you're going to actually justify why it is the type of point of view that you actually say it is. So class, any questions? Okay, it was lovely being here, and I'm going to see you same time next week for another lesson of literature. Thank you.